anything you'd like to share with the group. And then we'll open it up to everyone. So people who are attending via Zoom, you have an opportunity to share as well. My dad, I'm sorry, format. So after we're done with the sharing portion here, there is food that we'll serve upstairs. There will also be a camera set up in the library. Some of you who came in a little while ago might have missed that part, but we will have a camera set up in the library so you can give a personal tribute or share some individual memories of my dad or your experiences. If you don't have time here, or if you just like to say something one-on-one with the camera. I want to extend a few thank yous, of course, first to the Almighty for allowing us to be here. Thank you to my family, most notably my mom, for being such a great supporter. My brothers, Khalid and Rashid, for being my second and third biggest supporters over the last 2 years. And the rest of my family just for being here and for enjoying my dad's life with me. I'm really glad that we're all here and able to do it. Thank you to Imam Earl and the Muslim Community Cultural Center of Baltimore for allowing us to host this year. This is my masjid, and Imam Earl was a close friend of my dad, so it's very meaningful to do it here. Little explanation about why we're doing it now, a year after my dad returned to Allah. Like I said, I was very close with my dad, and to give you an idea of kind of what that experience was like for me, learning of his passing, my dad and I spoke almost every day. He was one of my biggest fans, our biggest champions, and my biggest supporter in my business journey as the owner of Kodetta Bake Shop. And so the night before he passed, I talked to him, and he had called me to congratulate me because my mom had shared with him that we'd been booked to cater Wes Moore's inauguration, the governor of Baltimore, and Brooke Learmon's inauguration, who's the comptroller the mayor of Maryland and comptroller of Maryland. And we were chatting, I was making dinner, I was like, all right, Dad, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then I went to sleep after dinner, and I got a call from my dad's mentee and neighbor in Albania. So my dad spent the last 2 years of his life in Albania. And Khalid and I visited Albania in 2014, and we met this mentee and neighbor, but we didn't really have reason to be in direct contact with him other than when we would visit. And so I always had in my head that when I see his name on my phone, that's going to be the call that my father has returned to Allah. And the next morning after I talked to him about the inauguration orders that we had gotten, 7 a.m., I saw the neighbor and the mentee's name on my phone. And my heart dropped. And for some reason, the first thing I thought to do was check Facebook, which is weird because my dad wasn't very active on Facebook. But I looked at his Facebook for some reason, and it said under his profile, active 1 hour ago. And so it just all happened so quickly, and my family jumped into action and helped us to get on a plane that afternoon to go to Albania and to have his janazah. In the Islamic tradition, we have to bury our dead very quickly. And so we had to fly overseas to do that. Myself and my brother Khalid and my mom went and we did that. And that was a difficult experience, but it was also very rewarding to be able to be there and to do that properly. So the months after that were probably the toughest of my life. Yeah, that was the worst day of my life so far. hopefully better days are ahead. And I've spent the last year grieving and healing and connecting with family and connecting more with myself and getting into a place where I could organize something like this. So many people, some in this room have reached out and said, when are you going to have a memorial? And I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't have the bandwidth. So now I'm happy to say that we're in a position to be able to do this. So this is a really, really big day for me personally and for our family, of course. So thank you all for being here. I just want to say a few words about my dad before I turn over the mic to someone else. so I can stop sweating. My dad was a lot of things. He was an educator. Both of my parents are educators, and some of the best educators. And I think I credit a lot of my personal development and my character to not only them, but the fact that they are educators and they really deeply care about raising children in a healthy way. My dad, his reach around the world is insane. Like after he passed away, I had people emailing me on the bakeries, through the bakery website, like, I knew your dad for the last 25 years and he was one of my best friends. And I'm like, I've never even heard your name before. I talk to this man every day. But there are so many people like that. My dad touched so many people, and it was much of that was through his work as an educator and a champion of Islamic education around the world, not just in the United States, but around the world. My dad was a leader. He was a leader to me and in our family and in our community and amongst his friends and his circle. I think there's a lot of people who if they needed advice for something or they wanted to run an idea past someone who had wisdom and knowledge and experience, they would call my dad. Yep. He's been characterized as a walking encyclopedia. His memory is insane. He remembers his first birthday. Like, you gotta be making that up. But no, he said, I remember it because I got in trouble for messing with my sister. And I was standing in my crib. How could you possibly? But no, his memory was impeccable. He could remember things and events down to the day and time. Oh, it was April 1978? No, it was 73 because I was walking down the street and I was trying to get a pineapple and the pineapples, they were just right. And so that's how I know. Anyway, very common refrain from my father. My dad was a counselor. I fondly recall a lot of conversations that he and I had about the DSM-4 and the DSM-5. Anybody who's a therapist or a counselor, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, editions 4 and 5. And I just have a recreational interest in the study of behavioral and cognitive psychology. So me and Dad will talk a lot about these things, particularly in the last year before he died. And that was, I'm realizing that that's kind of like an atypical bonding moment for father. But I really cherished it, I loved it. My dad was a foodie, which I don't think I ever was consciously aware of that while he was alive. But a few months ago, I realized, I'm a huge foodie, and my dad was a foodie. Wherever we traveled, wherever we went in the world, he would find the best food. Yeah. Like a little hole in the wall. When we lived in the Philippines, we would take a taxi 2 hours away from our house to this little tiny restaurant. And in that restaurant was lamb biryani, and to this day was the best thing I've ever tasted in my life. And I don't even know, how could you possibly have found it? I don't know how to find it. I wish I did, because I've never tasted anything that.
Saffron rice.
Yeah, lamb biryani with saffron rice. Maybe that was it. That was the secret. But that was literally the best thing I've ever tasted ever. And yeah, Dad, leave it to Dad to find and enjoy all the great culinary things in the place. My dad was a musician, but not a classically trained musician. I'm convinced that he had perfect pitch. And he had a love for jazz, as all of you know who knew him. He was in a choir when he was young. The story that he told me was that his parents were not very religious people, but they insisted that he and his sister go out on Sundays and do something religious, find somewhere to be. And so he happened upon this choir that he ended up being in, and they recruited him almost immediately. They were like, "Oh, you're great, yeah, here, sing this." And he went on tour with them, and as a child, which is crazy, because he had no formal musical education. I, however, am a classical trained musician, and he would call me sometimes and be like, so what is the tonic? What does that mean? And I'm like, okay, so he's asking me music theory questions, and I have to break it down. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, thank you. He had a lot of musical knowledge, and not the terminology or the technical understanding to back it up. But that's where I came in. My dad was a connector, and yeah, if you needed something or you needed to know something or someone, many times he was the person to call. Sometimes he might even call you and say, hey, I want to connect you with so-and-so or such and such opportunity. And that's how a lot of the opportunities that I've had in my life came to be. He connected me with one of my favorite business mentors. Well, Dad was one of my number one favorite business mentor. He connected me with Miss Kathy, who is here from New York, and Arnold, who's the owner of the little pie company up in New York, and said, yeah, you need to go and talk to him and see how to run your business. And I really appreciate that. Those are all things that my dad was that I realized I am too. And I am those things because of him, because of how much he shared those things with me that he was. And those are the things that I identify as some of the best parts of my personality. My dad was not perfect. I don't say all this to say that my dad was perfect. He had his troubles and foibles and rough patches in life when he was younger and when he was older and more recently. He was a smoker, and I remember when I was a kid, I used to steal his cigarettes and flush them down the toilet. I always knew, and he never, not once got mad. Like, he knew I was doing it. He never, ever got angry with me. And I just remember him being such a gentle father when I was a young child. He understood why I did it. He never yelled at me. I don't even think he said anything to that. He was like, oh, I guess she wants me to be healthy. My dad was gone a lot. He traveled the world from the time he was 17 up until 2013 when he decided that he wanted to stay in Albania. And we have a lot of his journals. My dad always kept the journal physically on his person from the time we were young. And I never thought to look in them ever. Like, as a kid, I just like, oh, dad has a journal. That's just dad's journal. I guess dads just have journals. But it wasn't for me to read. And so after he passed away, I brought back some of his journals and, leafing through them and just being able to see the way that dad thinks on paper was like insane. Like, he uses shorthand, and you can tell that his brain just moves so fast that the words, the writing can't keep up. And in one of these journal entries was a list of every place he's ever lived and the amount of time that he lived in those places. And I looked at that list and realized Albania was the longest stretch of time he spent anywhere since he was a child. And he really, really loved it there. He talked about how warm the people were and how the concept of Islamic adab or etiquette, how you treat one another and how you conduct yourself and how you carry yourself in the world, that concept is just imbued into the culture in Albania. And I think that he loved it there. That's part of why he loved it there so much. Despite my dad being gone a lot, in his travels, he was still an emotionally available father. And I didn't realize that he wasn't physically there because he was emotionally there. He would call me and, always the first question was, what are you reading? Every single time, which definitely made me have a love for literature. Like, I better have an answer when he calls and asks that. He was there for us in a lot of ways. I'm realizing is atypical for fathers in general in our society, and particularly in his generation. And I feel very appreciative to him for being there, and especially in my formative years, to help foster my growth emotionally. And on that note, my dad was only half of my favorite parenting duo. My mom is here, of course, and she's elected not to share with the group. I think this is just a lot. This setting is a lot. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention how much my mom, how critical of a piece my mom is to my dad's story. They had a relationship that, again, wasn't perfect, spanned over 50 years, and the two of them cared for children who are now some of the forefront of movers and shakers in their circles and in the larger community and in the world. And so they say behind every successful man is an amazing woman, and that woman is my mom. So I just wanted to definitely acknowledge her because she's very quiet, she's shy, and she doesn't know that I play the guitar. But my parents, the love that I saw for them, the love that I saw them have for one another was really special. And it didn't again, it wasn't perfect. It didn't always work out. And I was as close with my mom as I was with my dad. Probably I'm closer with my mom than I was with my dad. And I've been blessed to gain some insights from their relationship and their interactions that have helped and will help me in the future, just as a person, understanding why people come together and come apart and come back together, and why people love each other, and what it means to love someone. And I think, my dad, the way that he talked about my mom was, I've never heard him speak about anybody else that way. And so I know that she was incredibly special to him, and had a very high station in his heart and his soul. Okay, that I think is all that I have to say. Thank you again for listening. These are some things that have just been on my heart that I wanted to share. I'm glad that I have the ability, the platform, and a captive audience to share. Not I'm voting right next to the door, so intentionally. But we would like to open it up to family next to come up and share if they so desire. Come on up, Colin. I know this guy.
Assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to ground set a couple of things for us. Y'all hear from me more robustly than me. We want this to be an active engagement event. So I and a couple of my friends have background in spoken word, and so y'all gotta be quiet. Please don't. You think it's funny? Go ahead, laugh. You got something to say? Shout it out. Affirmations, claps, whatever. However you're feeling. We also have a digital program linked on. You'll see a couple of these flyers posted in Sola throughout the message, so you can use the QR code to plug into the digital program, as well as links for YouTube, Zoom. It's kind of redundant for y'all, but also link to donations page and an e-guest book. So if you guys take any pictures, videos, you have any comments that you want to add, pop them right onto that e-guest book, and you can access all of that from the QR code posted on the link. So thank you so much. It is overwhelming to see so many wonderful, familiar faces here to share in honoring and remembering my father. Like I said, I'm speaking a little later. And try not to cry too much today. Can't promise that, but Yeah, no, I've already cracked it open a couple times, so, you know, we'll see how it continues. The tears are free. Anybody like to share now? Come on, Selena. I know her too. We can let
So I feel like, hello everybody, welcome. I guess I'm the only one of my siblings who never lived full-time with Bilal, as we called him. I live with my biological father here in Baltimore City. And, but I had a I had a good relationship with Bilal. I always found him to be so kind. He had a very caring, loving way about him. And he was always very encouraging. He was actually the first person to encourage me to sing. I was not encouraged by my parents, growing up. It was kind of like the colorful music world. I wasn't encouraged to that end, but one day we were in Washington, D.C. I remember Tyler was a toddler at the time. And I was just singing around the house, and he said, "Baby girl, you got a voice." Okay, this is what you do. You need to listen to little Jimmy Walker. You need to study him. You need to study. He gave me all these people to study, and these musicians and singers, and we always circle back to it every time. And Renee has a story about the last time she spoke to him, but so do I. And throughout the years, he took me on a trip to Dubai. We first met for the first time with Bilal. And thanks to Rashid, who I think was working at the airlines at the time, he had the hookup holler. That was great. Going from America to the Middle East is like 13 hours. Right? We had a layover in Amsterdam, and that was just great. And I probably needed it because I wasn't an international traveler at that time. So thank you, Rashid and Bilal, for that. But when we got there, again, I'm an engineer, so we were going on a technical mission to a technology conference, and we had just the most wonderful time. And he made sure to make sure that I was okay. That's very key and important if you're traveling internationally, to have somebody to make sure that you are okay. And he took care of me, and I will forever be grateful. But about 5 days to a week, and I need to check my phone records to get the exact time. Before he passed, he called me because there was somebody trying to get in touch with him. So I called him. I was like, "Hey, this guy's trying to get in touch with you." He's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? He's gonna call me? That's what." He gets on contact anytime. And I was like, "Oh, just me." I'm like, "Well, I know. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that, I'm going to share your number." So I always, I check. And so he was like, "Yeah, don't me." I said, "Okay." I said, "How you doing? What's going on? What's up? What's going on with the little girl, the little one, and this and this? How's Amelia doing?" He was asking about my daughter. He was asking about me. And I always felt from him that he loved us like he was our biological father. And I think he regarded us that way. And even one of the brothers here told me as much when I came in. He met me for the first time. He said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Selena." He said, "Oh, you're an engineer." I was like, "Oh, okay." So, but this, I think, went it spread out to many of the friends and things that he had. And I'm grateful to have had somebody with that level of care. And again, this man had a lot of love and care to share. No one is perfect, but he was very, very instrumental in making sure that he encouraged everybody. Anybody he was around, he was very encouraging. And my mom and I had this conversation just this week. We think he had one of those memories that you never forget anything. You know how they have those, I don't know what the terminology is, but there's a condition, we call it, right? Where people remember everything. He must have been one of these people. Yeah. Because the level of detail that he can remember things is extraordinary. It really is. And And I look forward to, and I haven't even done this yet, I feel bad to say it, but he sent me so much stuff on email, it was almost overwhelming, like, I just couldn't go through it all, you know? But I never delete my emails from him, so I'm gonna go through and download them all and just kind of, just revisit it, and like the sister said, Sister Jamila said, you know, if you impart knowledge, or if someone can pray for you, and if someone can, if you can do something that can help continue to perpetuate the good deeds, you will continue to be blessed when you leave this earth. So I think that's a message that we can all, that are still here, take and try to endeavor to do for ourselves and for the people whose lives we touched. And on that, I'll just say thank you for allowing me to take some of your time and share your time with me, and be blessed.
Oh, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I am Colden Rashid Brown, basically Colden the third. I am the eldest of Agieb Bilal's children. Yeah, I look like him, it's okay. I get that all the time. I walk like him, I know. Kind of talk like him. You know, anybody that really knows me, just, you know, I'm just a little, trying to get a little bigger. That's it. I did not get the opportunity to have him physically in my life. Up until age 7, he was a death. But the dawn was whispered in my ear at birth. He made sure that I was birthed by Black doctors, Black nurses. So I am who I am because that is exactly what I'm supposed to be. I am not perfect, so I guess you say I'm a little more akin to my father than I really believe. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what we talking about? Like for real, what we talking about? I grew up on the West Coast. The rest of my entire family was on the East Side. I do, before I move forward, and looking directly in the camera, Auntie Antoinette and Alec Barr, our blessings and everything go to you. Hopefully you guys are tuned in right now as the last of the actual Browns, the last name Brown as well. It's holding a heavy heart, and it has for the past year. Understanding how much I am like my father. And listen, from the age of 7 to 17, I saw him when I was 7. All of a sudden, I'm on a plane for the first time going to St. Paul, Minnesota, to go meet him there during Christmas break, meeting Alec Barr, my first cousin. Hit him off the back, bam, first cousins. Anytime he turned around, we run out the door. You know what I'm saying? We run out the door, it's snowing. He's like, hey, he's from Brooklyn. He's like, no, I'm good to the store. I'm like, man, what is this? You know, snow this high, you know, bigger than almost as big as me. Got in trouble, of course, as boys doing things we ain't supposed to do when we're semi-supervised, as we all know. Pops was more into books and writing and conversations and sometimes paying attention. And we both tried to take up for each other, take the whooping. That's when I knew that this was my cousin.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna take it for it, then I'll do it. Like I said, not perfect. Next time I didn't see my father again until I was age 17. We were ranked from Seattle, Washington, Garfield High School. We were ranked number 23 in the USA Today rankings, playing in the King of the Bluegrass tournament in Louisville. Going for our second state championship, had a 3.9 grade point average at the time. We come through the layup line and taking pictures. Come back around and I'll never forget Pellet Phillips and his motherfucker. They were like, hey man, ain't that your dad? He looked just like you. I'm like, man, dog, I'm just coming back from injury. I'm like, man, I ain't worried about nobody. Man, what you talking about? We just doing the warm-ups. Man, come on, man, quit playing, man. What we talking about, man? Come on, we got a game to play. We come through the layup line, and I look. I come around the other side where I'm reading, and I look. He puts the camera down, and I just stop. I just stared at him. Coach yelling at me, everybody yelling at me, and I'm just like, what in the heck is going on here? Went on, we ended up fourth in the tournament. I had a hell of a game. That's not the point. The point is, from then on, we were freaking fracking. My relationship with my father is a little bit different than the rest of the children. When we finally did get back together face to face in Tampa, Florida, I let him have it. I'm a grown man just like you. You can't tell me what to do. You didn't raise me. I respect you. I respect your word. But you didn't raise me. It's a hard nut for him to take, as he would say. But then, of course, as dad does, somewhere down the line. Well, I was thinking, I remember something your granddaddy told me. To calm the whole situation back down. To understand that that's what a brown man is supposed to do. Speak truth. Speak no lies, speak truth. Be respectful but call it when you see it. Which is, as we can see in today's light, something that the people are afraid of. To speak truth, because that's what a Muslim is supposed to do. If you have a problem, be respectful, even if it's your family. Let's resolve it. From then on, working for Northwest Airlines, Continental Airlines, sending him, Colin. Now I forgot about something. Sending everybody I could, all my flight benefits everywhere in the world. You know what I'm saying? Just bring me back a T-shirt, right? First class at that. I get my paycheck and be short. I'd be like, woo. Jesus. Y'all went first class? $500 a ticket seat. Y'all gotta understand, it's only 500, not 20,000. But to me, that 500 was better a lot, right? And then going through life and realizing when I had a child at 23, and we're having problems with the mother and child, I was still one. And notice what I said, the mother of the child. She raised an excellent young man. She was not a baby mama. Just oil and water don't mix. Wish I would have figured that out prior. Hey, sometimes you don't get that opportunity, And maybe if my pops had been around a little more or I had spoken to him about it, I would have been that, but I didn't, because I chose not to. He was there, I just chose not to listen. So I had to take it on the chin. But one thing is when I did find out for certain that it was my child, I made sure that I broke a generational curse that was beginning. Since I hadn't seen my father in 10 years, I made sure that I got back to my son at 8. And it says, opposed to just being over the phone and speaking to him that I was physically in his life, to make sure that he knows he has his father at all times. And similar, you can lie to anybody, don't lie to me, because you're going to need somebody to believe you. That's one of them things where you say, I'll get you out of jail once, that's not it. That's it. Don't call me with no problems, Another thing is, as far as the memory, I have a memory of an elephant. I get told that all the time. And that's why I started crying initially at the beginning of this, because when I think about a lot of the attributes that I have, they can be directly tied to him. Graciousness. Those that know him on the other side know that there's no fodder, there's no fat, it's all beef. That's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a straight lace. But I love my father with First of all, I don't ever cry, so y'all, y'all might need to take this down to the, take this to the grave. You know what I'm saying? What's up? Where the beam at? Now, hold on a second. I will say this. Throughout these years, these last 20 years, talking to him basically every week, if I wasn't, whenever I spoke to him, he was either about to call you, or he had just spoken with you, or you, or Uncle Baki. it was that, And he would ask, when's the last time you spoke with Big Papa? Just a random question. Like, well, I mean, I don't know. What's going on, man? Well, yeah. I'm just checking in, see what your pulse is. I spoke to one thing about me is I stepped off from university. I went to University of Houston initially on academic scholarship, walked on to the basketball team. I went to Houston specifically to play basketball and graduate from school. When things didn't go well with me and the basketball coach, he tried to kick me off the campus, but I had an academic scholarship, so I was like, what are you talking about? Grandpa Cold ended up dying a couple of days prior to my birthday, my 19th birthday. I just met Grandpa Cold, so I smiled out. Basically, you know what that means, right? Braves hit the bottom, I was out of there and started the music career, which is interesting because for us not to grow up together, for this man in college, for us to be creative, that definitely taps directly to a vein, a well of creativity, love. Let's start with love. You cannot create without love. And you cannot continue to give a piece of yourself without wanting to share that love outwardly. So yeah, I was a hip hop artist and spoken word artist before you, buddy. Well before you. So it runs in the family. Like as you can see the jokes, that part of it is real. But one thing for me, I always felt that I was a failure regardless of the corporate jobs, the director of this, director of that, big houses, having the cars, the shows. None of that mattered. And it wasn't that I wasn't tied to Islam or Allah. It's because I did not complete something that I said in my heart that I would do. So when COVID hit, and I decided to go back, I told Pops I was going back to finish my degree. And I told him this. He kind of laughed. Yeah, I got to figure something was wrong with you. I figured something was wrong with you, jokingly. But I completed the degree and I immediately went into my master's program. And I remember him telling me that Saturday, prior to his passing, told him I was back in contact with got one semester left to finish my master's in digital sociology. I'll only be the second man of color in the world with this master's. Man, yeah, I can't wait to tell you. Oh yeah, get it. Ooh, I'm gonna brag. I got some brag right now. I'm like, okay, calm down, sir. Let me get through it first. But there was something that was very telling to me as I wrap this up. I told him I was back on campus. I live across the street from the University of Houston now. And I told him I was back in contact with the guys that when I came to University of Houston, I was a boy and I left a man. Well, development. You guys get what I'm saying. We weren't fully there yet, or else I wouldn't have had that child. But anyways, we weren't fully there. But he told me, that's good, son. I'm happy for you. And I remember these words verbatim. I'm at peace now. And I thought that was so and cold chill. I thought that was so unlike him to use those particular words. I'm at peace now, as though there was a finality to it. Next day he called me. I was waking up from the studio. I was like, I'll give him a call back, because you could always catch him right before or right after prayer. You can catch him. 5 you can catch him, you know what I'm saying? Or you can catch him at 3 o'clock in the morning now, Albania time, because he's up reading something, writing something. Or I just got off the phone with Becky. So I called him back right after John. He didn't answer, so I went to sleep. And then I got this sinking feeling in my dream. I felt my body, I tried to get up, and I couldn't get up. Felt like the weight was holding my body down. And I was trying to get up, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't catch my breath. So first thing first, I'm thinking that, okay, man, I'm too young for a heart attack, right, or something of that nature. But it was something more than that, because breathing was fine. I could feel anything. I just couldn't move my body out of bed. So I sat there, prayed. About 10 minutes later, I could get up. And I remember getting up, putting my feet on the floor, and thinking like, something ain't right. This is the morning of the night. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. So I went and looked through looked in the mirror, and as I could see myself, it seemed like it was like a little blur. It was like kind of a blur. I was like, something ain't right. So I went to start work. And that time I was working from home for several different lawyers. And colleague called. And I knew. Right then and there. As soon as called, he said, Assalamu alaikum. I said, you gone, man. He was like, yeah. How did you know? I felt it. So as I sweat my behind off up here.
You want to say that.
You want to say that?
Since you want to broach the topic.
I normally don't have anxiety, but I guess I kind of have anxiety when I talk about myself, my spiritual connection with my father. My father will always go down as the greatest man and the most intelligent man I've ever met in my life. He is a man that inspired me to pay attention to every freaking detail of everything in your life, which is unnerving to 99% of everybody else that can ever know you. But to also be humble, knowing that I'm a big man with a big voice, a big personality, a big heart, with big hands. Let me say that again, with big hands. And these hands are to protect my family. Protect my faith, and that's it. And that's what I will do, because that's what he asked me. Well, actually, he didn't ask me. This is what you're going to do if anything happens. So I have a mandate, and I will hold that mandate. And I will see all of you guys continually. Oh, y'all ain't got rid of me now. Y'all got back. Y'all got pictures of me crying. So I got to keep my eyes on y'all. Clicking on your phone, that's me. Okay. All jokes aside, thank you for allowing me to share that with you. It's been a very heavy burden to hold. I love my father so much. I'm so much like him. It's freaking crazy. And please continue. Can't wait to hear what some others have to say about how his journey touched your life. Right. Love, create. Right? Love, create. That's all I have.
Peace. My name is Safir Rob. I am one of Bilal's children. He married my mother I was about 8. And my mother had 5 children when they got married. Agieb Bilal means strange, Bilal, black man.
Tracks.
Bilal was a storyteller, and a remarkable storyteller, by the way. And he was a person who I think heavily influenced my life. And actually, I think that I was sitting there thinking about all of our siblings, Bilal considered his children. That's number one. That should be known. He would talk about us in that way. But I'm not his blood. I'm not his blood son. And at a level, I think that what I have to say might be a little more credible than what Samaya had to say, and what Rashid had to say, because when you can talk love about a person who is not your flesh and blood DNA, it stands as a testament in a slightly different kind of way. It stands as a testament, and not to diminish anything that they said. It stands as a testament in a little bit of a different way. So I'd like to tell a little bit of a story about Bilal, who we call him as my sister Salima mentioned. So he went from being a brown man, as he mentioned, son of Colton Brown. His name was originally Colton Brown, to becoming a black man, joining the Nation of Islam, first the Black Panthers, but then the Nation of Islam, wherein he was a investigator and he worked for progressive land development. Progressive land development, he was running this effort. This was an effort to kind of codify and bring together farming and land development for a comeuppance of black people who were up from sharecroppers, being sharecroppers, and excluded from economic benefit that was presented by the United States of America. And so there would, I would learn so many detailed things about this stuff from Bilal. For example, one of them was they would send trucks out from Chicago and send out the newspaper, the Muhammad Speaks, and they would bring back watermelon and eggs and chicken from the farms that was in other parts of the country. And along the routes, economic self-determination for black people who have been excluded from the promise of economic vitality in America were able to participate in it through interacting in this. And Bilal was over that effort. He was devoted to community development. So he went from brown man to black man to Bilalian. Third was Bilalian. So this is how he would describe himself. Right? This was the arc of his evolution as a person. And if he were here, he probably would describe himself in this way. And each one had a particular set of particularities. All right, the Nation of Islam, the paramilitary black nationalism era, the universal human excellence era, working with Imam Muhammad to transition a group of people from paramilitary black nationalism. And I can't wait for your book to come out because I know you visit all of this. He loved Taylor Branch. I can remember hearing him at the house talking about Pillar of Fire when you were writing that book. And driving up from DC to Baltimore and interacting very frequently. The Taylor Branch, it always would puzzle me, actually, as a little kid, saying nothing. White man, right? Real white. But knew so much about black people. He knew these people, and he knew, and Bilal would defend, their friendship, relationship, and his understanding. And it actually gave me better understanding on how we should see civil rights. Because it's not just black and white. It actually does become a level human. And it transcends the surface level part of who and what we are. So Bilal went from this person devoted to identity, devoted to information as an investigator in the Nation of Islam, to a person, actually contemporary to that time, doing research in urban planning in Minnesota. So his work as a researcher and an urban planner in Minnesota, it actually informed his community development devotion. And when I one time moved back to Baltimore, I was working with my uncle, Israel Kaysen, who also passed away a year ago, and was great friends from college. They used to always kick it. I was a little bit jealous, if we're honest. But the Park Heights master plan, Goody Clancy from Boston was brought down to study and do the Park Heights master plan. And they did a thing called a charrette. Never heard of a charrette before. But they did this fancy charrette to the people in the hood, for the people in the hood to know what was being planned for them. And it focused on the buildings, green space, transportation, and workforce, marginal workforce structure. And in true Bilal informed influence, I kind of stood up and said, this doesn't, have the people included in this plan. Where are the people? This is so Bilal. So Bilal. And he would ask a critical question. He was very verbose, but he would ask a critical question to kind of set, and then you, before you can get, debate and try to get the word in edgewise, it first was the critical question. What was the critical question? The critical question was, where are the people in the plan? In the part of Baltimore where the 215, 226, 227 census tracts, highest incidence of HIV/AIDS, highest infant mortality, highest all the bad stuff, right in sub-Saharan Africa. All this was so Bilal informed, Agieb Bilal informed, compared for contrast to relatable places. And I called Bilal. When I was, the Otis Rowley, who was the director of planning in Baltimore City at the time, he said, he decided, okay, smarty, he didn't say it like that, but he said, I'm going to give you a contract for $250,000, $250,000. You make a plan that includes the people. Oh, okay. And first thing I did was call Agieb Bilal. Call Bilal. And Bilal traveled, I don't know where they were at the time. I think it was Philly or somewhere, but he traveled here and he coordinated a door knocking campaign to take and created a survey, which we converted into what ultimately became adopted by the Baltimore City as the Park Heights Master Plan. And it's the law. It was a 260-page document. It was whittled down to 11 pages. That is fact. That happened. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then moving on, I'll make this brief. He was, of course, a historian. Bilal, so this is an amazing historian, and he was a jazz aficionado. In fact, he would say that in me trying to adapt and adopt, an understanding of jazz, which ain't as linear as it was, for us, I think in my generation, it was for people who grew up in it. Oh, you have to start with Duke Ellington, Benny Goodman, and Count Basie. Once you know those three, then you can go on further. You also have to understand that Johann Sebastian Bach was for most jazz musicians, he influenced them because of the sophistication of his harmonic composition. And that was informative for me, and it actually made me have to research what those words even meant. In the context. And then I was able to apply a little bit. So, and then the last part of what Bilal would see himself is, even though I didn't see him, two other things you see him. One is an educator, I may have mentioned that, the other is a businessman. I didn't see him as a businessman. I don't think he was a businessman, really. But he loved business. He really loved the money required to do the things that he really wanted to do, which was history. He didn't really love business. Like some people just love finances, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. It was kind of like a necessary evil. I'll try this out. And if I'm successful at it, whether it was coffee, lupin, urea, gold, oil, bladeless turbines, or blue cat crabs in Albania most recently. All of these were wonderful ideas. He was an idea person, but they never, it was never such an attachment or a fantastic attachment to the idea in a way that would make him pursue it, such that it would upend his desire to promote Islamic education. Bilal was a part of the Council of Islamic Schools in North America for many years, and he took great pride in that. And I don't see him as dead, by the way. Death, you know, the immaterial interest that we have that occupies this material expression is something that will move on at a point. And the material expression we put in the ground, but the immaterial expression continues. It continues in our words, it continues in our, you know, how we remember the person, it continues in many forms that we know and other forms that we don't know. I think this is for sure a celebration of a life that continues in us. We are the children of that, by the way. We are produced by that. You know, I look at, as Sumaya says, Sumaya is, by the way, a brilliant musician. I brag about my sister. She's baking now. She's a big shot. I kind of feel some kind of way about her.
She's a brilliant baker too.
She's a brilliant baker, but her baking is nothing on her music. I'm telling you, it is amazing. And when I look at her composition, I have one on my phone, and I brag and I show people this video in my car, wherever I'm in the world, and they're like, well, you know, who showed her how to do that? Especially people who are not encouraged, as Bilal encouraged Salima to do music. And I talk about Bilal, and I talk about his influence on us. He was a remarkable guy and continues to be one. So I'd like to just say these very quick 3 key lessons that my life has been informed, but which is also a very Bilal thing to do, chunking things and codifying. The 3 lessons that you really ought to know. The first is give generously to young people. When I was a little boy, we lived in Washington, D.C. College was born not too long after that. Bilal was working at a Darrow House, which is a drug treatment effort. I wonder if I worked with my uncle in drug treatment because of that influence. He also worked at the Saudi Consulate, the Saudi Embassy, dealing with people coming in to the students around the country as a liaison. And he drove a taxi cab on the weekends and nights. And it was very expensive, even still. I can remember this remember that Grace Station where everyone? Big Grace Station where you drive. Grace, here we go, Grace. Driving that station wagon, and I'm riding around with him, and I would ride. He's hitting on the dashboard, and I was kind of aliyah, not fighting. That's Arabic. He would encourage us to learn Arabic, Bilal. And I said I was the substitute doer for Rashid, because I was a teeny boy. And he was moving and being dutiful to what was his life. So we're riding around. I think he must have made, after paying the cab fees, etc., $40, $50. And he gave me, he said, how's your scratch? That was Bilal for how your pockets are. You have any money? And I said, I don't have any money. And he gave me 20. It was a lot of money in 1990. And then we went to the store and he got a big baguette, some whipped butter, some smoked trout and salmon, red onion, and we went and stuck it in the oven, and we ate that that bread, and it was something. Never ever forgot that. Left an indelible in me. That experiences like not only from Bilal, but he did it regularly. When I had experiences like that from people who were charitable, it made me into a charitable no. It makes me want to give. Bilal, give more, specifically to young people. The second, strive to stay upbeat and jovial. When I look back at our life, man, sometimes we want holy hell. Money wasn't right. Sometimes power would get cut off, and we'd have to scramble to try and make it work, etc. Couldn't tell with Bilal's attitude. His attitude presented jovial, always just, positive. That's something to take in. I got a ways to go. My wife will tell you to learn how to do that. And then the third and final thing that I'll mention is study. Study, whatever is your craft. Study and be accurate and speak confidently all the time. Sometimes he speaks so confidently that he might not even be accurate. But I believe him because of the. What is that, man? Listen. No. That was and you know how Bilal was very animated in describing whatever was the thing he was describing. And it reminded me of actually the Nation of Islam and people in the tradition of Islam that's known around the world. There were people in that tradition in the 60s that would persuade people to come out of al-Islam and join paramilitary black nationalism just because of how much conviction and confidence. He carried that over. Don't go for the okie doke. Don't go for the okie doke. Be defensive of the posture. And I think those give to the young people, stay up, be positive, study, be accurate, don't go for the okie doke, are three great takeaways that if we do those in the name of Agieb Bilal, he'll continue to get the benefit from our behavior where he is right now.
Carry on.
All right.
Okay.
My name is Kathy Robertson. I knew Agieb through his sister originally, Antoinette Brown in New York. I knew his grandfather, his nephew Alassar, granddad, grandma, and I always heard all the children's names. And I couldn't figure out, you just spoke. I said, wait a minute, he only has so many kids, but then he just told me about some other children. I couldn't figure out. I said, oh, everybody was part of his family. He always honored you. He talked about his other son when you were working for the airline, he was flying everywhere. And about when you were doing the music. And I said, oh, he's hip hopping now. And then he said, no, he's doing this, he's doing that. Agieb talked to everybody in the world. And whenever I would look on my phone, I would say, oh God, here goes a 2-hour conversation. Because somehow or the other, he was going to tell you this, that, and some more. On top of that, somebody would call and say, Agieb gave me your name and number. I'm gonna be in New York, can I come by? That meant they were gonna come by, be at your house, and then you were gonna have to go and do different things with them. give mine, but Lord, don't let him know you know somebody, because if you know Joe, he's gonna make sure you talk to that person, to the next person. It's just gonna travel, however. Including, Yanis who's in Paris, I guess he might speak later on. I met Yanis, who's doing, he's doing his research on Brother Malcolm, who I met for the, 2 minutes when I was in the mosque, because I was being, indirectly hoochie coochie. Just from knowing, when, he was in Chicago and teaching. So over the years, did talk to him, was glad to meet his daughter. She said, I'm gonna bake. He said, I'm sending her up there. You gotta know what she's doing. And then meeting other people in the arts and other connections that you don't realize. Oh yeah, I remember when we used to be on 116th Street on the corner and we talked to everybody and everybody kind of knew everybody and greeted. It didn't make a difference what your relationship or religion was. We all spoke and you all connected and educated. And when he was doing, working with you on the book, I remember he was talking about that. You're gonna have to read that soon. I'm almost finished doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and you're gonna have to know and read. And all I can say is, oh my God, I'll be reading for 2 months. It's gonna be all that much work. But loved him, yes, wherever he is now, I know he's talking. Well, people say, oh Lord, let's go. It's worse than being in the barber shop. Because you're going to talk, but he connected people. He definitely loved life. And yes, he said this, where he was, this is the best place. Everybody talks to everybody. And you don't get that. It doesn't make a difference who you are, where you are. We're all friends. You connect, and it used to be that. Yes, Bilal, give people a breather wherever you are, brother. And thank you for introducing me to your friends, your extended family. And that's it, and thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I didn't know Brother Bilal personally, but I came up here today with my long-term friend and brother, Muhammad Shah. We go back 51 years back to the University of Islam in Ohio, which is part of the institution that Brother Bilal helped establish in the community. In addition, I never knew that Brother Safir Rab was his son. I met Brother Safir Rab through Brother Abi Shabazz, who's Yasin Bey, most Steps father. And came up here one day, came to Baltimore, and he drove me all around. We went to a funeral, right? We went to the Masjid of DC. Right? So I had no idea that Brother Safir, I didn't know he was going to be here today, right? I just figured the brother Giannis that they talk about, who's in France doing research for Brother Malcolm. We met him on, somebody asked me to moderate a clubhouse group on Malcolm X, called the Legacy of Malcolm X. And we wound up meeting him coming on the group, and then we found out that when he's in Philadelphia, he stays with Brother Muhammad Shah, because he's from Morocco, and Muhammad Shah's the West from Morocco. So evidently it's a small world, right? So, and they talked about the alumni affair that's happened in July in Atlanta, which is the alumni for the Muhammad University of Islam and the Sister Claire Muhammad Schools. So I won't say a little bit about myself, but I just want to know that when Brother Giannis posted, when Brother Bilal transitioned, he posted his story. I was so impressed about not just his work, but he done something that I don't think anybody else could have done. In that story, he talked about that Brother Bilal was in in Chicago, he was driving Yusuf Shah, used to be Captain Joseph of New York, back to the airport. And at the same time, Brother Benjamin Kareem was in Chicago. And Benjamin Kareem was Brother Malcolm's right hand, and he left the nation with Brother Malcolm. So evidently, Brother Yusuf Shah and Brother Benjamin Kareem was on opposite sides of the issue. What happened was that somehow or another, Benjamin Kareem and Yusuf Shah was sitting in the back seat of Brother Bilal's car, going to the airport, and they had made up. And so I don't know anybody who could have done that, because that was a very, very fierce time, and it was a time where people were taking opposite sides of the issue. So somehow or another, I got caught up with Giannis. Me and my friend Muhammad Shaw, we go way back on our type of in New York together. We went to Spring Lee in the Brooklyn Museum last week. And then, of course, you know, Brother Safir Brown here, and I spent time with Agieb Bilal, which is a character. So you get out there, who's if you think Yassine Bey is a character, you got to get up he's loving from his taboo. So that's my 2 cents. I really didn't, you know, I didn't want to speak because I don't really know the brother myself, but may Allah forgive him and create him in paradise. And we're all inspired by his great work, and we're all motivated to do more. Especially, you know, now we're the seniors, now we're the 60 crowd. So it's our time to, I got 4 children and 7 grandchildren, to make sure that we sustain ourselves and make sure all of the sacrifices that they made, that we actually really take our rightful place in society.
I just received a phone call as I was walking up from a gentleman who some of you know. This morning, I saw him yesterday in Newark. I didn't get a chance to speak with him. But some of you know this gentleman. He considers himself to be the most erudite man in the world. And he said that he would like to be on Zoom next. He is none other than the esteemed city councilman of Linden, New Jersey, and the imam, and his name is Alfred Muhammad. Alfred.
Imam Alfie, unmute yourself. Hello. Plug it in. Plug it in. Are you plugged in? You have to plug it in, bro. Yeah.
There he is. There's his thing. Oh, wow. What up? We can hear. They can hear.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Go ahead. Unmute.
Mute?
Go back up.
Okay.
Go ahead, brother, man.
Hold on.
Y'all unmuted the wrong Alfred meeting.
You're both. Right?
You're both.
Don't bring two working already. Peace be on our noble and honorable audience. I rise on this occasion to speak concerning my closest friend, closer than one of my biological friends, and my adopted sister, Antoinette, and Sister Kathy. I'm just so honored. Agieb and I, Secretary, his title was Secretary, Assistant National Secretary, and Manager of Progressive Land Development Corporation. There two things was constant in my life. A conversation with Secretary Bilal. He always referred to me as Imam Alfred, and I always referred to him as Secretary Bilal. I first met him in 1968 in Madison, Wisconsin. He was then teaching at the Callister College, and I was teaching at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. We talked very briefly. The next time I saw him was on the steps of Temple number 2 in Chicago, Illinois. He was being interviewed for the position of the National Secretary, and so was I. And Agieb was a bit more taller and could type faster than anybody in a bullet. He could type, I think, 100 words per minute, and he was joking. But we remained friends. And I later on became a friend with his father, Colin Brown Sr., lived up the street from me, and I can't think of any human being on earth who has been closest to me. I too felt when he passed. I woke up in the middle of the night, and just a sudden depression hit me. I'm wondering what this is, and then I got a call from Abdul Baki telling me that Agieb had passed. It will require an biography to really discuss the life of Secretary Bilal. But one of the last things he did for me was to give me the telephone number of Henry Kissinger. Because Agieb, Secretary Bilal, if you wanted anybody's number, he had it. And also, before we discuss, just briefly, I want to discuss some highlights. There was a writer by the name, and still present, Taylor Branch. Agieb had met him, and he was the one responsible for introducing Taylor Branch to Imam Warzadin Muhammad. Secretary Bilal was the connector. When I first became the resident imam in Baltimore, Maryland, the person that came with me was Secretary Bilal. We cannot even begin to have a just estimate of him. And I'm just honored to have known him. I was with him today in May of 1975. I'm not as precise as he was. And both of us have near photograph. He had a perfect photographic memory. I have a near associate memory. And the day that the Imam and then Supreme Minister gave him the name, Agieb Bilal. In psychology, we talk about something called archetypes. That which personifies the most feature. And then he was given the name, which is what very few people in the world have that name, Agieb. It means a wonder, astonishing. That's what Mary in the Bible, Maryam in the Quran said when they told her she was going to have a baby. She said, Agieb. And I can tell you, Agieb Bilal, the son of the great Colin Brown that I got to know. And his father and I became very close. An extraordinary man from Georgia. And an extraordinary mother, Miss Manny Brown. I didn't meet her, but I heard so much about her. We know each other's biography, and I would say I am honored and privileged beyond words to have known Agieb Bilal. Those of you young people should study Agieb Bilal, and hopefully we will put together a historical history of him. These are figures that when history is written of the globe, and even the transformation of Islam on the globe, Agieb Bilal will stand as a towering figure in that district. I'm so honored to have known him. I want the family members, particularly Antoinette and his adopted sister Kathy, and adding all to say words so I won't become a pig, even though I don't eat pig. They get on the stage and they can't get off. So I'm not gonna have a sad man to come and get me off the stage. Again, I'm so thankful to Allah to have served with Secretary Bilal. He was ecstatic when he heard I was elected to the council in the city of Lebanon. And right now, I'm the only Muslim imam in the United States to hold elective office. Thank you. I'm hoping to accomplish with interviewing on my program soon. Dear Mark, that is God Almighty continue to bless you all. The only thing that I must say that I didn't know, and I even called me talk about it, was music. I had no interest in music, nor an interest in basketball. But when it came to intellect, that's all we talked about was the community. That is community in my work to be my honor. And I thank again God Almighty Allah for blessing me to have known this great brother who was astonishing and the best personification of Bilal. Thank you. Peace be on you.
Going once, twice, 3 times.
I am well. Will you,
Hold on.
did you, I was trying to reach the sister.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And unable to come on screen, but I did just want to say something on behalf of myself and the Clara Muhammad Schools Network. My name is Marcia Nivens, and I am a member of the Clara Muhammad Schools Network. As a matter of fact, I am a board member of the network, and the network is a group of schools that come together to support each other in our endeavors to keep our schools alive, support new schools that are interested in opening, provide professional development within our network, and just to strengthen the educational system in our community. Brother Agieb was a member of the Clara Muhammad Schools Network, which is how I met him. And I always thought it was so cool that, he would call me from Albania, right? So I would be at work sometimes, and because the time difference was what it was, I would be at work, and the location would just pop up on my phone, and he was always calling me from WhatsApp, so it would tell me where he was calling from, and I just always thought that was really cool that I knew someone in that part of the world. But outside of that, it was an extreme pleasure to know him, even for the short time that I knew him. He was very knowledgeable. I mean, he has so many resources to be able to help to both give history on education in our community, but also resources to help strengthen education for us, for our children. I can't even tell you how many emails I have in my email account from him. one day he called me, I was at work, and we talked for a little while, and he was expressing his pleasure in knowing that I was a part of the network. And I just, he felt my energy in that, in one of the Zoom meetings that we had. And he got a hold of me, and he just said, and in fact, I'm sure it was his youngest daughter that he was referring to, but he was saying, I was talking to my daughter about you, and I found another like mine, and I was honored for him to say that in reference to me. And in that conversation, he asked me if he could just send me, the resources that he had. And I shared my email with him. And when I say the emails just start flooding, they absolutely just started to flood my inbox. And I was amazed at the amount of things that he just had ready to send me. But I was also honored to be a recipient of those. It makes you feel like you're a trusted person in the community, someone that Agieb Bilal sees as a person who will take this information and make good of it amongst us. And so I'm honored to have known him, even for that short period of time. And to the family, just sending love and good vibes and, good memories to you all, just to keep that stuff at your forefront, because I know that he was precious to you, but he was precious to so many more people. And Allah really used him, and he allowed Allah to use him in a very big way. And that, when people amongst us leave this existence, one of the things that I believe that we should take with us are those examples that they leave for us in their humanity and how they live their lives. And so for me, that's one that I'm taking with me, is to allow Allah to help me to be a vessel for the upward mobility of our community. Assalamu alaikum.
There are a few more you online if you also like to do some words. You can raise your hand.
Okay, so I guess I'm supposed to talk now. We do have some more time left if anybody would like to share. Where is he? Not really. 2 minutes.
Last $2 minutes. How about it?
You want the last 2 minutes?
Right.
Okay, so
I said last $2, that's funny, I'm surprised.
that's fine. I mean, we have time. We have time.
See, y'all getting quiet over here, last $2. I'm not gonna go in on.
My unofficial uncle, Brother Agieb Bilal.
Yeah, but something. Agieb, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, they covered all the bases. But the one thing I told Salim is that Agieb loved his family first. And on one hand, I can appreciate your patience with him. Agieb was married. Yes, he was married to his family, but he was married to a movement. And when you get a person tied to an idea, a movement, a life, the shortcomings he might have experienced in fatherhood, in husbandhood, in family life development, we ask Allah to forgive us our sins and shortcomings and grant us the highest stages of paradise. Because I met Agieb and we were in the nation together in Chicago. And briefly there, I knew who he was. I worked in business office, he was Cincinnati secretary. I was a secretary in New York, in Poughkeepsie, New York. Then I moved to Harlem, moved to 116th Street, then I became business manager at number 7. And you get to know people. And all the stories that they tell is right. And it's all connected. But this guy loved his family. And one of his ardent desires, if he could really show that he loved them. He struggled with how to do that. But he wasn't a man that was going to sit at home. I wasn't a man that's going to. We married women they had to deal with the movement, the building a nation. We had to build a nation. And in building a nation, we built the manhood and produce what you see here. If you're here, because Agieb got you here, by Allah's permission, number one. So I just wanted to say, I concur with everything. Then there are things we can say, yeah, got to take to the grave, but he produced scholars, students, and world leaders. There are world leaders that I can't even call on this phone right now that he was connected to. They were students of Agieb. And in many cases, he changed world politics in certain spots around the world. His family knows those people, many knows people. The world knows it, and those who listen know it. So we're honored because in my generation, Agieb and I, we understood two things. My generation of African men in America, we had two things. We had to do, number one, we had to uplift the race. And number two, educate. We were the generation that had to knock in the doors. That's all. Just stand there, knock the doors, and get everybody in. That was our two mission. Early in for a while, Agieb and I, we shared an office in a masjid in Atlanta. And we got a call one day, and we met the imam. He said two things. He said Agieb out on a mission that he never stopped. He said, I want you to stay in education and to community development. That's all. Didn't have a clue what that means. It went to some that say, just go out there and do it. But it didn't. I think we were bright enough to figure it out, And some of the products that Agieb did throughout the world are still standing out. And I can't even imagine the barakah that he's getting for the people that were educated from his effort. We in the millions, I never forget, he got a call once from, let's just say like this, an official in Kuwait. And the official told him, I want you to come and educate our children. Think about that. I saw the email that he came, I saw the email. He said, we are investing in you for our people. This ex-slave, son of an ex-slave, amounted to that. We got a call from Liberia once. The president called. I said, let's go to Liberia. He said, I said, I ain't going on. They kidding. They was in a civil war. Straight up, the brothers were killing each other. But he got a call. Let's go. I said, that wasn't going to happen. Fred and Frat, now. Go, not go.
You got it.
Yeah, so, you gotta raise your family, you gotta kids. But long and short of remarkable, and that word was strange is correct. That's what it made it astonishing. I want to say unique. He was unique to our community. I don't know anybody like him. I don't know anybody that's common sense, but I see his students. We also ought to mention, I saw a brother online here, Hashem Fuda, he's in Cincinnati. The focal art movement, when Imam Wardi Muhammad introduced to the lady, Karen Luther. Yes. Well, that established a good relationship with that. And from that relationship, the Imam visited the Pope. His name was John at that time. And he established a long-term relationship, and Brother Hashem still carries on that duty today with the focal art. Still has that connection. Another Agieb Bilal student. How you become a student? Well, I figured this out. Rashid Nur is online today. Rashid Nur was the guy in charge of the farm for Progressive and up. Had breakfast with him a few days ago. In Atlanta. He's still in Atlanta, doing very well. Assistant Secretary, Agriculture, President Clinton. He said, man, the people assembled in Chicago between 75 and 77, I never met a category of Africans in America that had that skill set. Could have run this country easy, without even blinking, it would have been easy. Agieb Bilal was one of those focal points in that movement, to gather those people from all around the country and the islands to do that. Many came from the islands, Caribbean. Some came from indigenous countries. And so the long and short of it, he was a magnet for all that is good, and we may do it, that Allah give him the highest stages of paradise. Let him become Khalil, his friend. Because if you remember him and do what, because he gave each one of you who knew him an assignment. He gave you something to do. I'm still on post, still doing what, and still haven't finished. And we're gonna, God willing, we're gonna do some of those things. So if he gave you an assignment, carry it out. Thank his wonderful family, his wife, his children, beautiful children, and us who are students of Bilal. We come out, there's a term that Bilal and I always use, we come out of the house of Elijah. From a little brother down in Sandersville, Georgia, from the best he knew how to clean us up, to get us ready. So his son could give us proper pedagogy of Islam, proper living, looking to the Prophet Muhammad. He sent a lot of that, and there Agieb Bilal brought some of that. Believe me, he brought a lot of that to the fore. So may Allah bless us all. Safe travels back to our destination. And those online, put Agieb in your dua. I call his name in each one of my duas. I call the name, because that's a remembrance to me. And I'm not gonna tear. And I feel like it. But it's tears of happiness, tears of joy. And he is to my family like your family. I got it, you got it. And so, may Allah bless us all. Thank you for this time. Thank you.
I got you tearing up.
It's not like Hank, I saw you were enjoying, I saw you had the Necco wafers. Did you enjoy it?
You ate some of those? The candy you ate?
Yeah.
Necco wafers.
We have a menu here of some of my dad's favorite things. And then, yeah, no, see, that's appropriate. We have the next wafer score as, yeah, did you like them?
No.
Right, it's, yeah, no, it's, it was my dad's favorite candy. Said it came out before candy came out. Chalk, pretty much. Yeah, no, it's glorified chalk. That's like, yeah, right. My dad wasn't even born and raised in the Depression, but that's the Depression candy.
You can write on the chalkboard. Maybe that's why he wrote it, so he could write.
It's glorified chalk. Alhamdulillah, silent times. In speaking to my friends and anybody who I met about my father, the quickest, easiest access to communicate the scope and breadth of my father's experiences and impact was calling him the Black Forest Gump. They're legit parallels. Like they were both in the Army during Vietnam. They both knew U.S. presidents. Like Forrest Gump met Richard Nixon. My dad personally knew President Jimmy Carter. Forrest Gump was an All-American football player. Father almost made the Olympic basketball team. Forrest Gump was in shrimp with Bubba. My dad did coffee.
With Jackie Robinson.
With Jackie Robinson. What? Oh, see? Wallahi, I never knew that. I found out stuff about my father today. That was kind of the point of this, honestly. Forrest Gump apparently inspired Elvis for his dancing. My father told me this story about meeting with these, white Jewish guys or whatever, in like Cleveland, and they were like, oh, wait a second, I'm just waiting on this, this woman to finish singing real quick, and this woman's there, it's like, I'm sorry, my daughter never really sang outside church before, and it was Whitney Houston. And I'm like, what? And it sounds so fantastic. My father knows a white guy named Jamal. It sounds so fantastical. But,
the craziest thing.
But when you meet my dad, almost nothing seems out of bounds, for real. He's there was, so much here. What are you reading? Oh, I'm reading Cannery Road. I used to live on Cannery Road. Caesar Time. Oh yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Bobby. 1969. Bobby Seale, one of the founders of the Black Panthers. He just casually, nonchalantly mentioning that Nancy Pelosi emailed him the other day. I didn't know about this story in the meeting. Brother Malcolm and Brother Benjamin Kareem, when he was a kid, across at this coffee shop across the street from his house, until he was sharing this story with my students, when I had him in on a Zoom class. It's just never ends. I'd also like to share some key Bilalisms with you guys, because my dad, man, his way with language, he said stuff that I thought was just old head sayings, but then I never heard anybody else say things like, what's on the rail for the lizard?
Yeah.
What? I got it. He talked about shuffle off my mortal coil, which is a Shakespeare reference. What? That's the color of another horse's difference. He always called basketball a pill. There was Wetchmo. Oh man, there's a story about how he knew his basketball career was over when he was playing. He was born and raised in Harlem, and he's playing on, the playground, and he runs to his spot on the baseline, and he goes to take a shot, and Connie Hawkins, NBA fame, jumps up and grabs his ball out of the air like a rebound, and then just turns and dribbles the court. He's like, "Yep, I knew I was done." He had all these touch points. Jackie Robinson's son. You never knew where or what my dad was doing historically. Alhamdulillah, and he always left his own impact on people. I remember the late sister Ann Muslimani, who was also a renowned educator, author. She shared with me this quote from my dad that always left a mark on her, that it is not our job to protect our children, but to prepare them. And he lived that, alhamdulillah. He was a small giant. We know, it's like we know all these names, like, Brother Malcolm and Imam Murthy Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad, and honestly, Rashid, my brother Rashid, serves a similar role in kind of like, hip hop and spoken word communities. One of those people who you don't know their name, like the public don't know them, but all the big heads do. He was a common strain and a connector for them, in that of people, of ideologies, of cultures, generations. He was constantly working in interfaith and trying to, again, connect people and find commonalities. SubhanAllah, his work has served as a template, and not even intentionally. My mother and my father raised us so well, and they never asked us or guided us towards education or anything that they found particularly important. However, pretty much all of my siblings and I have been teachers or very much involved in teaching and mentoring and education throughout our lives. It wasn't until like my mid-20s. I'll probably find out more stuff after this event. It wasn't until my mid-20s that I learned that we had educators going back on both sides of my family, multiple generations. And as Samay was saying, like, to leave my mother out of, my experiencing and my recollection of my father is just impossible. I remember she always said, if you're gonna do something, do it well. And I didn't even know that mediocre didn't mean subpar and horrible until my mid-20s. Mediocre is like average. She was like, you did a mediocre job. I was like, dang, I guess it's some horrible dishwashing. Okay, I'll get it together. She got 9 of them. One of the memories I have, one of the warmest memories I have of my father, I had spent half a year living with him in the Philippines when I was 15 years old. I was going through like teenage angst, whatever. Like, oh, come on, it's not bad. But that was a foundational experience to my formation as a man, as a Muslim, as a scholar and learned person and artist. He had, like independent study where we were reading, I was reading, like seminal books like Native Son, Invisible Man.
A People's History of the United States.
People's History of the United States, right?
Read when we were like 12 and 14.
Yeah. And that was paramount, key to, again, my identity and the impact that I seek to leave on the world. I'm so incredibly humbled by my father's, my mother's teachings, and I didn't realize this again until college, and I'm still, fully grasping the scope of this in my mid-30s, that our family collectively is an absolute powerhouse. Like from my brother, who's again like Rashid, one of the first, recipient of Mexican digital sociology, right, in the world. My brother Yusuf, who who, despite being in jail for almost all of my life, has been an amazing mentor, husband, father, throughout that experience and beyond. My oldest sister, Akila, she went feeling well, who has raised amazing children. And honestly, it's like one of the people I have in mind in terms of balance of faith and practice as a Black Muslim in America, being a parent. My sister, Salima, who is an amazing woman, businesswoman, mother, entrepreneur, singer, kill it. My sister, Intisar, who's, every time I talk about Intisar, I'm like, she's probably the youngest, blackest, Muslimist, tenured Harvard law professor in history of anything, anywhere. Yeah, like, we're gonna have to, fight to keep her. There will be a fight to keep her out of the Supreme Court. It's like, my brother Safir, who has, as long as I remember, been a pillar of the Black Muslim community. Was raised awesome children. Ran for Congress a couple years ago. Continues to, continue that legacy of community building and establishing, furthering the work that my father and his contemporaries started with the Nation of Islam and beyond. And of course, my sister Samaya, Baker, Booty Shaker. Don't make that a necessary correlation, though. Like, she says it, so I said it because she said it. But we're more than that. Amazing musician. We're definitely more than musicians. I mean, that too, but not just that. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, I don't have many regrets in my life. The one regret that I know for sure, I remember when I was 12 years old, my father called me from Tampa, Florida, and was like, hey, your brother's here with Mahmoud Abdul Raouf, from here with Hakeem Olajuwon, because, of course. Like, would you like to come hang out for a weekend? And I was like, nah, it's the dumbest. I was like, I got a soccer game, and this gonna be on TV. That was the dumbest decision.
Yeah, what's left to kick the soccer ball?
Probably then. It was on public access. Worst decision of my life. But also, again, indicative of my father and his connections. He wasn't great at family connections. And I get this from him. He wasn't always physically there. When he was there, he was amazingly present. And he wasn't there, and it was easy for him to kind of fall out of sight, out of mind. And I definitely experienced that relative to my connections with people. And it hurts sometimes to not talk to you about it till you a teenager. And especially in his late life, he sought to reestablish those connections, to recognize his mistakes, and try to be better. The two things that come to mind when I think about my father and his legacy, his impact, especially upon me. One, when I shared with people that my father had passed last year. The greatest compliment that pretty much produces response every time was that knowing who you are, darling, I have an idea of how great your father was. The second thing,
as frequently as we spoke, he would not let me get off the phone. Sorry, that was a pause, not a full stop. That is also true. There was one time I was talking to my dad, and I'm riding around with my friend. I'm like, Dad, hold up, I gotta wait. Can you just pause it? And I just like paused on, put him on mute. We got in the car, and I took him off mute, and he was still going. But he wouldn't let me get off the phone without not just saying, but gushing over how proud he was of me, Sumaya especially, my brothers and sisters in the family. It was, as several people said, never a separation in his mind and his heart from, biological kids or whatever. Like we also don't recognize that. We're again a powerhouse in the family. When I consider my experiences and other people. He taught me how to love as a man. I don't think that I wouldn't be up here crying in front of you guys without my father's modeling his guidance. I never feared him. I thought frequently about my father and my mother and not being afraid to make mistakes, but seeking to honor them despite mistakes that I made. He was integral in assisting me through my marriage and eventual divorce, and helping me. My mother too, my relationship with both my parents grew through that experience, and helping me prepare myself, heal, move forward. He frequently said, and honestly, I remember I was talking to my mother about this not 10 minutes before Sumaya called me, telling me about my father's passing. Yep. I was like a turn away from getting the school that morning. He frequently said that he never thought he'd live to see 25. Which is a harrowing reality, especially of Black boys and men in our country throughout its history. And whereas that draw, that realization, that perspective drags down so many people, he used it as an impetus to make the best of his life and the best of his time on earth. And, every day above ground is a good one. And alhamdulillah, I very much seek to honor his legacy with my work and my impact on others. And as Brother Al-Baki was saying, we all do. As people who have been touched by, my father in their lives, he inspires you to do better and be better than he was, than you were. I'm inspired by his warmth, his patience, his brilliance, his humility, sometimes even to the extent of his own detriment. His consistent focus on righteousness and justice in Islam. He was always working and trying to connect people and bring better things about.
I don't know how he did it. Like, he was, I remember he was talking about, building the school in Albania. And this was a couple of years ago. He was like, I just signed a contract for 10 years. And I was like, it's a long time, Dad. You are 76. But he never felt old. He was tireless and brought that joy, that exuberance that, again, like I try to embody and continue. And so I thank you all so much for sharing this moment with my family and me. He had a reach literally across the world. When we talk about establishing schools across, like, up and down the eastern coast, Minnesota, Florida, the Philippines, Albania. He touched so many lives, and inspired so many people to go above and beyond what people ever thought we could do, people ever thought they could do as individuals. I love him so much. I love you all for sharing this moment with us, and I feel like my father embodied the idea of love. I got this quote from I think I can forget over. But I think it speaks to my father and his work in interfaith, that if you knew your religion, you wouldn't need your religion. At the end of the day, our purpose, our religion, our commitment is to love one another. And my father embodied that. And I implore you all, please, to help continue his legacy by embodying that yourselves. Every day. Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you.
Father did not say what he does, but he is as he's getting more used to saying, an international award-winning spoken word artist and performing artist. He is an educator. He is taught in public schools, charter schools. He's currently in Philadelphia teaching middle school, teaching performing arts to middle school. This is his first year teaching performing arts, so he has built a very socially conscious arts curriculum from scratch with the help of some people in this room. And he is living a living legacy of Agieb Bilal. Okay, so that is about the end of the formal program. I just wanted to share something that many of you might not know. So my dad died of a cardiac arrest in his sleep. And we knew that he was having heart problems for like a year and a half or so. He never told us how bad the issues were. I knew that he was on medication because we talked about it. But when we got to Albania last year, the same mentee and neighbor said, yeah, the first time we went to the cardiologist, they said, you need to go home and be with your family. That's how bad this is. And I'm surprised that you are living now. And we never heard that. Wallahi, we never heard that until we went there to bury him. And initially that really hurt to hear that, because I felt like I had failed as a daughter. I felt like I could have done more, and I would have done more. But I also realized that if he had told me what was really going on, he knew that I would be on the first plane over there to bring him home. And that was where he wanted to spend the rest of his days. Being able to go there and see the environment where he was living was just like, oh, okay, clicks. I understand now. And so as painful as it was to know that, the doctor also said that, there's a couple of ways that he could pass. One is incredibly painful, and the other is he could pass peacefully in his sleep. And alhamdulillah, the latter is what happened. And it was very quick. The way that it happened, his neighbor came and knocked on his door, and my dad had sent him somewhere to grab some groceries for him. He was gone less than an hour and came back, and my dad wasn't answering the door, and it passed. But because of the way that it happened, we were able to jump into action and take care of his affairs. So alhamdulillah for that being the case rather than any alternative. And apparently his heart was too big, which I think is telling, in terms of just the amount of love that, that my dad received, but more importantly gave. I think he was more of a giver of love and attention and care to people who knew him, near and far, than someone who sought to receive things or love from people. And that's one of the lessons that I take into everything that I do. I try to be a giver more than just a taker. Thank you again for being here. I really appreciate the love that I feel in this room for people who have experienced my dad, people who have never even met my dad. But I like to say to my friends now that if you know me, then you knew Agieb Bilal.
Yeah.
I consider myself a perfect mix of both of my parents in many ways.
Perfect,
They say that that's for last. And my dad, to echo what my siblings said, he always spoke so highly of each one of his children. All of them, all 8 of them. And he told me a lot that we are the answer to his prayers. And I thought that was so, that's something that that we don't hear a lot from people. We don't hear that type of love expressed in that way. And so I'm just so thankful for him for being the father that he was to me. I'm thankful for my mother for allowing him, because my dad would not have been the father that he was without this woman right here. Without the love and care of he couldn't have. And of course, none of us would be any of the people we were without Allah, without the Almighty. So all praise is due to Allah first. Thank you again for being here. So right now, I know you're all itching to eat, so there is food upstairs. My alter ego is Codetta. That's what they know me as in these streets these days. I'm the owner and executive chef of Codetta Bake Shop. And I also can, I know, booty shaker. I can't keep saying that in public. People are gonna actually think I do it. It's more of a theoretical. Booty shaker. Metaphysical, metaphorical booty shaker. But anyway, so we have some options upstairs. There is salmon and chicken. So I bake, yes, but I cook too. So I'm excited to share some of my dad's favorite dishes that he would make and some dishes that we associate with him, and also some, there is baguettes and whipped butter upstairs. And those nasty neck wafers that he loves so much. Cashews, of course, really good coffee. So thank you again for coming. Please enjoy. If you are short on time, feel free to take some to go. But at this time, we're going to transition and get some food. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Couple things. I just want to remind you guys. Couple things. I wanted to remind you guys of again the program. Also with links to your guest book. Please sign in. Like share yourself a couple words you might have, or just like I'll say thank you. There's also a donation link, and there's.
And people can still share in the library.
People can still, that's the other thing that I didn't want to forget. People can still share in the library if they get a chance to. I would also want to give a very strong, very hearty shout out to New Freedom Exchange, New Freedom Network, who provided the live streaming and digital services for us today. And even that is indicative of, like our sense of community, where somebody made a post in a Black American Muslims Facebook page, and Brother Bilal was like, hey, we got you. From New York. From New York. Thank you all very much. You have anything to say?
Well, we want to.
Okay, yes.
And then after Salat, those of you who are not praying, they can
Go ahead upstairs.
They can go upstairs, is that all right with you? And then we want to make Salat, and then when we finish, we can go up and partake in the sumptuous meal that you have. Okay.
Yes, so we're going to call for prayer. Before we do so, I'd like to close out the prayer with Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter of the Quran. Alhamdulillah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim,
مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
I say it in English for our guests.
In the name of God, the most beneficent, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship, and your aid do we seek. Show us a straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and those who go not astray.
Amen. Amen.